It's just the small things. Celebrating your success, getting into that mindset. Hello, welcome. Today we are going through 7 ways that you can be your own best friend. These are things that have really helped me over the past year or so, and I really hope they will help you as well. Let's go. The first on the list is to set boundaries. This is probably something that you've already heard about, but I want to go into a bit of detail about this and also give a few examples just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about here. Setting boundaries doesn't have to be something horrible, like you don't have to start like a fight with someone or be really rude about it. It's just about stating very clearly where the line is for you in terms of what you allow people to say to you or what plans you make. You probably already do this in some capacity, you just might not call it setting boundaries, but like you may not tolerate people saying mean things about you or making jokes about you. You may not tolerate people making comments about your weight or the way you look. People may have said these things in the past and you would have said, no, you can't say that to me. You just need to work out a way to do that with other things in your life. So if you have agreed to go out for lunch with a friend and then as the day gets closer you suddenly realise that, well, actually I've got too much on and I don't feel like I can do it, there is nothing wrong with you then saying to your friend, I'm really sorry, I can't make it. Now, this is where for me I feel a bit conflicted because growing up I was always told like if you make a plan you stick to it, and I don't want to be flaky, but at the same time you do need to put your mental health first, and if they are a real friend they will probably understand and you can just rearrange and it won't be a big deal. I think also in terms of the way that people talk to you, I had an incident recently, it was just over text. I'm in a few group chats, I think we all are, and I have very mixed opinions about these group chats. I had shared something on one of these chats asking for advice, so I wanted people to chip in with their ideas, and one person came back and it was really kind of a backhanded way of giving advice. It felt like they were sort of insulting me at the same time as trying to be loving and like give some advice, and there's definitely a way to do that. You know, tough love I think is sometimes necessary, but it's normally with people who you actually know really well and care about. This person I don't really know, but we're on the same group chat. They really crossed the line, I think, in what they said, and I was like, I can handle you saying that to me, but someone else in my situation might take that differently and might really be offended or really hurt, and I just thought it was really inappropriate. So I set a very clear boundary about how this person is allowed to talk to me by saying, hi, thank you for your message, but this aspect of it I think was not maybe the most sensible thing for you to say. I really couched it in like constructive, loving, non-confrontational words. And they never replied. And that's the thing I think we fear with setting boundaries, is that you don't want to annoy people, you don't want to go back on a plan, you don't want to have to explain yourself. So setting a boundary can be really hard, and you need to set them and then keep them so that people know that when you say, hey, don't talk to me like this, then you will actually follow through with the boundary. If they then do, you'll say, actually no, I'm walking away now because I really said don't say that kind of thing in front of me, and you're doing that, so no, goodbye. Just remove yourself then from the situation. It can be an intimidating thing, but it's also, don't make a big deal out of it. It's something that will help you to be your own best friend. It's just about having your own back basically and being assertive about what you will and won't tolerate. The second way to be your own best friend is linked with boundaries, but this time it's about yourself. Keep promises to yourself. So this is like setting a boundary with yourself. Keep small promises that you make to yourself. If you say, I'm gonna go for a run tomorrow, or I'm gonna turn off my screens earlier, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to try and eat loads of vegetables tomorrow. Whatever you say to yourself, get into the habit of questioning first, oh, do I really mean that? And if you do then think, yeah, I want to go for that run tomorrow, then try and hold yourself accountable and keep that promise to yourself. And again, this, like with boundaries, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Don't get like really strict with yourself or be dramatic about it. When you say something to yourself, then follow through with that, because then you are building trust within yourself. So when you say to yourself, I will do this, then you can trust that you actually will. So an example of keeping promise to yourself would be maybe you designate Friday evening as a self-care evening, or an evening where you're just going to sit and read, watch your favourite film or your favourite TV show, and then someone last minute says, oh, do you want to hang out? Keeping the promise to yourself, you can be like, oh, I actually carved out that time just to relax and chill, and I want to have this self-care evening. You can keep that promise to yourself by saying, actually no, but can we do another time instead? Again, doesn't have to be a big deal, just something small. The third way to be your own best friend is to watch your inner monologue. If you are someone who practices any kind of mindfulness or meditation, you will probably already be aware of this to some extent, but basically in terms of your inner monologue, you just need to get used to noticing what you're thinking and noticing what things set you off. So if you're with a group of people and someone makes a comment about how put together someone else looks, and you take that personally as if they're saying like, oh, she looks nice but you don't, when that's not what they're saying at all. But if you can notice that instant reaction, you can become aware of what things you're insecure about. Similarly, another small thing, if someone makes a comment about the fact that you've not done the washing up and your inner monologue then goes, oh yeah, I'm so stupid, I think it can be useful to monitor and be aware of your inner monologue, because that's the story you're telling yourself. And if you want to make things easier for yourself, be your own best friend, you need to be aware of what story, even the subconscious story, you're telling yourself. So if you suddenly find yourself in the afternoon thinking you're having a really bad day and just things aren't going well, if you're able to notice your inner monologue, you might suddenly be able to trace that back and be like, oh, this started this morning when someone made a comment about this, or it started when I saw something on social media that made me feel like my life's not good enough. There is so much stuff everywhere and it can be very easy to compare yourself to other people, but if you can at least be aware of what's going on in your head, then that will enable you to be your own best friend, because then you can catch those things, or at least you can be like, that's not an actual thought, that's just something that was triggered by this thing, and you can trace it back. I know it sounds quite complicated, but if you get used to doing this, just noticing what you're thinking. So right now I might be thinking, oh my gosh, do I look silly on camera? Or is my voice weird? What are people gonna think? Like, I can notice these things, but I also don't have to feel them. Like, I don't have to give them any power. I can be my own best friend and be like, you don't have to listen to that if you don't want to. The fourth way that you can learn how to be your own best friend is if you learn to listen to your gut or trust your intuition. This has been a big thing that I've been leaning into in the past year. You need situations where you have to make a decision, basically. Instead of consulting everyone else and being like, what do you think I should do? Like, yes, it's good to talk through your options sometimes, but I think there are some decisions where only you can make them. Everyone would have a different opinion and everyone's choice would be different, because it would be a different situation for everyone else. Everyone has their own stuff to deal with. So I've had situations, for example, where there's going to be alcohol served, I'm in recovery, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'll go to that thing, it won't bother me at all. And other times I've been like, you know what, like, I'm not just in the best headspace for that, I could do without it, basically. It's not gonna harm me, I could go to that event, but I would rather not. That also comes with, as we've talked about, setting boundaries. So I have set a boundary there with people around me that sometimes I'm not going to feel up to being around alcohol fueled events, and that's fine. In terms of trusting your gut, there are some times where I'm just like, no, you know what, I don't feel like I want to go to that event. And it might seem like the wrong thing, or people around me might be like, oh, are you sure? Or are you making the right choice? But then as the event is happening, I'm sat, reading, or I'm just not there, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm so glad that I'm not there. Like, I made the right decision for me, even though it was a difficult decision and I wasn't really sure if it was the right decision. And so through practice, that's why I say you need different situations, so you can like try this out for yourself in terms of listening to your gut, where you have to make a choice and it really comes down to you and what is best for you. Other people can't tell you. The more of those decisions you make, the more in tune you get with like your inner voice, and you're able to listen to that as opposed to anxiety driven thoughts or thoughts of what's the right thing for me to do. Instead, you're like really focusing in on that really small voice that will guide you specifically. So if we're thinking about how being your own best friend, the same way that sometimes your best friend would come to you with something that they don't talk to anyone else about and they want your advice, you need to be able to do that for yourself and be like, I can make this decision for myself. I just need to think about it for a bit and then really weigh up, how would I feel if I did this or this? And then make a decision from that, and it becomes easier the more you do it. The fifth way I think you can learn to be your own best friend, and again, these are things that have worked for me and hopefully they'll work for you, but for me, spending time alone has been such a good way to treat myself and be my own best friend. I'm an introvert, so I get my energy from being alone, reading, going for walks, listening to podcasts, watching a TV show that I like, painting, writing. I get energy from being by myself. I can recharge and just sit with my thoughts. That is how I can be my own best friend. I need to make sure that I have time every day that I can relax and be my best introverted self and live my best introvert life. And particularly if it's a time where there are more people around, then I need to be extra aware of making time by myself. If you're not an introvert, then you need to factor in time with other people, because extroverts get their energy from being around others. Introverts get their energy from being by themselves. That's just another way to have your own back and be your own best friend. Make sure you prioritize yourself. The sixth way that I think you can learn to be your own best friend is to write about or think about your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, your ambitions, because this is a way of encouraging yourself. And I like writing, so I would definitely write about these things, whether it's you want to get some journal prompts or you just want to imagine what the perfect day in your life would be like in a year's time or 5 years' time, whatever you want your life to look like, can be a really useful exercise to write about this. I think this is just a useful thing to do because it encourages you the same way that you would talk about these things with your best friend and you would talk about where you want to live or what ambitions you have for this job that you've got. You would talk these things through with your friend and they would probably give you advice, things to encourage you along the way. If you want to be your own best friend, you need to first express these things to yourself and then you'll be able to encourage yourself and be like, yes, we can do this. Go after your dreams, basically. The 7th way that I think you can learn to be your own best friend is to celebrate your successes. Anything you achieve, whether it's something big like nearly 2 months ago I celebrated 1 year sober. These flowers, astonishingly, are 1 year sober flowers that my sister sent me and they've lasted so long. So that's a big thing to celebrate. But equally, if you're just like, oh, I made this promise to myself and I kept it, I did have my self-care evening instead of going out, that's something to celebrate as well. You don't have to wait for a big occasion to celebrate yourself or celebrate something that you're proud of achieving. If it's something that matters to you, then you should celebrate it. Whether it is your birthday or, I did my workout 5 days this week, which was what I planned to do. Yes, I'm on track here, well done. And you can buy yourself a card or some flowers. I recently finished my dissertation and it was a very long project and I've just remembered to celebrate my success. I had promised myself last week that I would buy myself some of my favourite chocolate chips, so I need to go do that after I finished filming this video. At first you might feel a bit silly doing these things, to be like, well done me, I did my face mask which I'd planned to do, or well done me, I kept my boundary and I said no, I can't make this thing, or no, you can't talk to me like that. Well done me, I prioritised spending time alone. It's just the small things. Celebrating your success, getting into that mindset, it will help you notice all of the positive things because you'll always be on the lookout for something and you'll be able to then give yourself like a mental pat on the back and be your own cheerleader, be your own best friend and be like, well done. Whether that is something like a big anniversary or something like I went for a run today and I've not done that for a couple of weeks and I'm proud of myself. If you've enjoyed listening to all of these tips, I would recommend you check out next this video, which is how to validate yourself in 3 easy steps. The first of which is to be your own best friend, but there are 2 more in that video. It's just a beginner's guide to self-validation, continuing on with some of the themes that we've talked about in this video, so please go check that out. God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.